think you're going to enjoy a little chit-chat with. We're going to kind of call this the Wings of Valor. You know, I was laying there in bed this morning and I thought, oh, I just love to smell the...
I put my face.
What is it? I just messed it up.
JP4 in the morning?
Yeah.
The jet fuel?
I love the jet fuel in the morning. That's because of him. You know, he just loves to smell it. That's the kind of perfume I wear. And if you want to buy some, get on our website and you can buy some. And you women, your men will love you. Okay?
Oh, the SD jet fuel?
Yeah. So now then, this is Charles Orville. He is an F4 pilot, and he retired as a Dallas captain with Southwest Airlines. Only because he was forced to by the government. It was their rules. 65, you got to go. He's 73 and he can fly anything you put his little old bony hands on. This man ate, slept from the time he was wee-high to a grasshopper. He was a pilot. That's what he is. Don't know how to do nothing else but pilot here and pilot there. Pilot here and pilot there. So we're going to hear him talk a little bit, okay?
Alrighty.
He's really, I call him Captain, and so does at church. And he likes to go by the call sign of
Orville.
Orville. Does anybody have any idea why? His last name is right.
First to fly and live the longest, I say no more.
I sort of say, I think that. Thank you so much. Telling our technical people, thank you very much, because they helped us to get this set up so we can do some talking today. And the reason why I wanted to call it Wings of Valor, because there are so many stories this man could tell you that would interest you and probably scare the you-know-what out of you, too, of what he's done. Because the faster he could go, the happier he was. If he was flying jets now, he would be in hog heaven. Or should I say airplane heaven. But anyway, how did you get started flying?
It's probably in the second grade when I knew I wanted to be a pilot. But 1 or 2 years later, I knew I wanted to be a fighter pilot.
Oh.
And of course, many years later, I knew I wanted to be an airline pilot. True story. Because flying was something I knew from way, way, way back that I wanted to do. And was lucky enough to get to do it, and even luckier enough to survive it all.
Yes, some of the stories that I have heard, very lucky. Because there's some that can just walk across the tarmac and boom, there they are, they're gone. And he's got to fly on. And he is living today. He's got children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And he is living.
Both the Thunderbirds and the Blue Angels both had them as the aerobatic demonstration aircraft, because when this thing came out, it broke all sorts of records and it held them till 1975.
I hear they're still flying them.
Iran still flies them. Turkey still got them. I think Japan finally parked their last few, and a few other countries have finally parked them because they are old, hard to get the parks, and it was a marvelously well-built machine, very rugged, and it is still the world leader of distributed MiG parts. True story.
It's a good-looking airplane. I'll tell you that right now.
It is.
It's a good-looking one, and that's what I guess it was the last one you flew in the service, wasn't it?
It was the C9, which is actually reserving, but the A4 when I was training command down in Beeville, Texas.
Okay, well, I know that the F4 had, 6 crew pilots, or was it 2?
Just 2.
I knew
A
that.
pilot and a Rio.
Exactly. Tell us what a Rio is.
Radar intercept officer. And they also have it as a weapons officer type thing in some of the other airplanes like the F-15, the other 2 crewed airplane type things, weapons system officer, WISOs type thing, where they run a lot of the ECM, the countermeasures type things, and helping you navigate and helping you look out and checking your six if you're going into bad guy territory. It's nice to have another set of eyes looking around and see if nobody's sneaking up on you.
Absolutely, absolutely. If I was to ask you how much stick time you got, what does that mean?
It's actually flying time. The time that you get in that thing, crank it up, taxi out, and blow out of there. That's stick time.
That's stick time. Y'all got that? Well, what about cat shot?
That's one of the most fun things you can do. Daytime VFR off the aircraft carrier, you're sitting there on the cat, they take tension and all that, you're checking everything out, and there's only one thing holding you on the ship. It's that little dog bone that's sitting right here on the end of the tail of the airplane, which has got the cable that's attached to the aircraft carrier, and you release your brakes, you're checking everything out, they've checked you out and everything. Of course, the final checker will be sure that your flaps down, your trim's setting, and you don't have any big hydraulic leaks or something that's major wrong with the airplane that they can see. And you just saluted, put your head back, you had your hand all the way over to the cat grip, which is a bar that you could stand out to hold by the throttles to have it full forward, and you was shot, and you made that 180 feet in about 2 seconds.
Wow.
From 0 to about 140 knots.
It is not for the faint of heart. You would leave your tummy back there, okay? That's pretty cool. Well, now, you know, they call someone rhinos in the Republican Party that needs to go out to the pasture, but what do you guys call rhinos?
That was just the nickname for the F4, which had many other nicknames, too. Lead sled, double ugly.
Double ugly.
Yes, the most efficient converter of JP4 to black smoke was another one.
Okay. Well, on the F4 was known for its unique characteristics compared to other fighters. What made it so special?
It first flew in 1958. It was the first real twin-engine, two-crewed airplane for a fighter. And it also had the new radar and the new radar-guided missiles that took it from the gun age to the missile age. And that was the big factor because in the late 1950s, the electronics was cutting in such a tremendous acceleration and advancements and everything, and the computers were getting so much better. In other words, it didn't have to be the size of your house to work. And the radars were getting where they could get so much smaller and more accurate, and the radar could be used to guide AIM-7 Sparrow missile for an extended range. Because if you're getting a gun kill on somebody, you have to be dang close to them. And if they know that you're there and they're maneuvering, especially if they have a highly maneuverable airplane, it is hard to get a gun kill on somebody. And if they're moving around, and of course bullets are dumb, you have to do all the thinking for them. And if you're sitting behind somebody and they're turning, if you're just nose on like this, that bullet just goes straight and it's going behind them. You have to pull a bunch of lead out here to project these bullets out in front of this, to project where this airplane's going to be at in the next few seconds right there. Wow. And that's 2,500, 3,000 feet, kind of like max range. And like I said, somebody in a maneuverable airplane, a jet, accelerating all that, a few thousand feet can get away from you real quick.
Well, boy, he certainly knows his plane. Knows his plane. Well, you go, what, 2.5 Mach?
At that time, like I said, this was the big dog on the street. It could go Mach 2.5. It could go to 50,000 feet. It set all sorts of records, the 15 records that it held till 1975 until the Godzilla F-15 came out. But the time of climb, the speed, the maneuverability, the capability of it to climb from the deck to nearly 40,000 feet in 1 minute was just unprecedented for any other airplanes.
Wow.
The Century Series fighters and all that, they were neat, but they were mostly single-engine airplanes. Didn't have near the thrust that the J-79 engine on this one produced, and just mill power was like nearly 11,000 pounds, and you had two of them, so that was 22,000 pounds. You plugged in the afterburner, and that was an additional 8,000 to 9,000 pounds. So that's like, 18 or so right there. So you had like 37,000, 38,000 pounds of thrust. And if you were real light in fuel, and of course you're that low on fuel in an F4, you're looking for a place to land, but you could be coming off the deck with a few thousand pounds of gas, and you could be 1-to-1 thrust to weight ratio. Of course, now all the fancy airplanes, they can come off the deck with a full bag of gas, and they're loaded out for combat missiles, bombs, whatnot, and still have over 1-to-1, which basically allows them to go accelerate, go straight up.
Wow.
Which is neat.
I started to say you would love that, wouldn't
Yes,
you?
indeed.
But the only thing is the government seems to think that because you turn 65, you're too old. He's 73 and he could outfly any young guy out there today. Give him an opportunity. I don't know why they have to set certain rates. Why don't it go by, or why doesn't it go by the person? Are they mentally there? I don't want to talk about the president, but we've got two of them that are both quasi the same age. One needs to be out, and one is coming in that's got a brain. So the age doesn't make the difference. It's the person. So why did they make everybody retire at 65?
That gets away from the objective standard, because it's subjective. Oh, it's certain decision by this person. This person thinks something different. This person thinks something different. But if you just basically draw the line, says 65, that's the drop dead line. You can't go past that. That makes it final and real simple.
Well, it did, but it took out some really good flyers. Not just him, but some of his buddies too. I know that you could carry up to, 18,650 pounds of weapons, right?
The F4 had 5 hard points on it. And it also had what would be the sparrow cavities for the sparrows. There was 4 of them that they had kind of like indentations where they kind of fit in flush inside the fuselage of the airplane. And yes, you could carry a lot of bombs and still have your 4 air-to-air missiles to go into bad guy territory. You could be a bomber, get rid of your bombs, and be able to fight with anybody else that wanted to be out there to play with.
No, we don't have much time today, but we will pick this back up at another time. But you did tell me a story one time that I thought was very interesting. You were going to get to go and fight. Oh, he was so excited. He was going to finally get to go fight. He's a fighter, okay? What do fighter pilots do? They like to fight. Well, he was being sent to, I'll let you pick it up. What happened?
It's the spring of 1980. The Mariel boat lift was in progress. And of course, the dictator, Castro in Cuba, was kind of basically emptying his prisons and sending the riffraff across. And these poor people were coming in some of the junkiest boats, pieces of wood, all that sort of stuff. And President Carter was the president at the time. And he decided to allow cover for the helicopter transport ship that was right in the middle of the Key West and Cuba, right there, right on the meridian. And Castro liked to rattle his sword, and they was afraid that he might do something unless there was somebody else to kind of deter any operations like this. So they sent our squadron down to Key West. Most fabulous jet that I probably ever went on, because it was one of those where Hershey Control was the big radar, and we got down there, and lo and behold, all this secret stuff came into that we had read about. They said, oh, this is just magic stuff, all the armament and everything else. Just as soon as we get out there, you could see the pallets. The missiles were out there on the trailers. The guys were sitting there with the electronic fancy secret stuff, the KY, keyed stuff and everything. Our realtor said, I've never seen this. We got to read up on this. And they were in their secret stuff reading this thing, and we were just dazzled. And the next day we go out there, here it is, loaded with 4 Sparrows and 4 Sidewinder missiles. It was the doomsday load. Even our 3 guys in the squadron, the CO, XO, and the AMO, had the green ink. In other words, they were Vietnam-era guys. And said, we never flew with that in combat. Because they might have 2 Sparrows and 2 Winders, what would they would load up with, and they were going out dropping bombs, because that's what their main mission was, to go out there and put holes in the ground right there and support the ground troops or try to knock out some bridge or whatever the target was.
Oh, that's what they were doing in the Vietnam War. But
That's
this
right.
was going to be a different type of...
True story. So we go down there and we're going to be the deterrent. Sure enough, we're gotten there. And real nice setup. They had the unit where we'd sit there in our full flight gear, ready to go. Just as soon as the klaxon came on, we'd start running out to the airplane. Our plane captain would be underneath the airplane, just sitting in the shade. He'd hear the klaxon. He'd flip the electricity onto the airplane. He'd hit the starting gear, and we'd go scurrying up there, and we'd run up into the thing, jump into the cockpit, and he'd put the 2 coke fittings on our top. In other words, that's the most important ones. That's what you got your parachute connected to in case you had to eject. And he'd pull the face curtain pin, he'd show that to you, and he'd slam it on the side, and he'd be going down and putting the ladder up. because the right engine was windmilling. Just as soon as I came in, I'd hit the igniter on the thing, it would be lit off, and by the time it's lit up and got fully speed and cranked up, he'd be going down the seat where he'd be clear right there where I could turn and start the left engine. Wow. This is from a standing start now, and you could get basically everything cranked up, run from the shed, get to the airplane. It was probably about 2 minutes to get the engines running. And then the stray voltage checkers. Once you came in on your internal power voltage generators on there, disconnecting your air and electrics, you put your hands up and they say, okay, we got everything. Meanwhile, you're fixing the rest of your coat fittings, the leg braces, everything else to get strapped in. You get your gloves on to get situated in the cockpit. And they would go through and check all 8 of these missiles before they pull the safety pins. And they show you these bunch of flags and everything as they have a handful of them, and off we go. And we could be airborne from a standing start in about 4 minutes, always less than 5 minutes time frame.
Wow.
And we got to scramble at least once every day as a practice one. And the fun part of this was Hershey Control would take you, they'd give you a vector, this, that, and other, and we'd just get out and play. And they had the code words for it, says this is a practice scramble. Get out there as fast as you can, but don't hurt yourself. If it's a real thing, here's the code word. And so we get to play this thing, and this is fabulous. We'd sit and fly that whole day. We'd sit that night in the shack, in kind of like a 15-minute ready alert. They had showers, you could go out and eat, this, that, and the type thing, and just be ready to go, watching the TV. Next morning you got up, you went out, kind of pre-flighted the airplane, checked it over and everything, and the next guys came in. And then we had the rest of the day off, which had never happened to me before in the military. Unbelievable. So we're doing this for several days, and all of a sudden, we're kind of like wearing the airplanes out, because we're flying them hard and heavy type thing. And the MiGs are kind of like staying down there close to Cuba. They're not really coming up there to the parallel, but they were worried about them, because if you put a supersonic pass over the top of a helicopter close to it, you basically collapse the rotor blades and then crash it. You kill everybody up on it. So that's what we were there to prevent. And we were on a kind of like afternoon type thing. All of a sudden there's a call that says, get back to the squadron now. And we scurry back in there. And of course they came in and they did this secret brief type thing. Said, this is what's happened. There was a Bahamian cruise boat, PT boat. And it was out there trying to help these poor people come along in their rafts and everything, and they were picking up people, and our helicopter guys were picking up people and everything else, and the Coast Guard was out there also. And they decided to take about, I think it was 13 MiG-21s were circling around this Bahamian PT boat. And for some strange reason, one of these MiGs fired its ATOL missile, and it went right down the smokestack, exploded, sunk the ship, killed all, I think it was like 13 on this PT boat. Oh. And we're going, holy smokes, this is going to be it. And man, we start flying. And I mean, we're just continuous, section takes off, the next guy's set up, you're sitting there playing AC-Deuce or whatever, kill time, another few minutes later, boom, they give us the practice scramble, off we go. And we do that for 2 days solid. And we said, well, we need a little break. So we need to work on the airplanes, need to tune the radars, and just give a little maintenance people and everything a little break. They said, okay. So they said, no practice scrambles today. Guess who's got the first duty? That's right, me and my Rio, J.J. Krim. And J.J. was funny. He was about ready to get out of the military. He was going to be a cop in Philadelphia, I think what his game plan was. And he had 28 days to go. Wow. And we're sitting there playing AC-Deuce, bored as all get out, and going, I ain't going to get to fly today. And we're sitting on all this torso harness and everything else except for our gloves and helmet is the only thing in there, helmet bags in the airplane. Everything else is on us. So you know how comfortable that is. At least we had air conditioning in place.
Because it's hot in those things.
We're sitting there, and all of a sudden the phone rang, and it was a certain line that just as soon as our operations duty officer, whoever was lucky enough to catch the watch at that time, would pick it up, it immediately sounded the klaxon outside, and the scramble was on. And I remember this phone ringing. I said, JJ, that's it. And he said, no, it's not, Orville. And I start running to the door. And just as I'm getting to the door, I could hear the ODO going, this is it. And he picks it up, the klaxon comes on. And sure enough, they gave him the code word, this is not the practice, this is the real thing. Yahoo! I'm going to reduce some weight and drag on my airplane real quick because the Sparrow was 1,000 pounds.
Ooh, Good dogs.
And a lot of drag, a lot of weight. And so we go scurrying out there. The plane captain's got the same thing, hot start type thing. And all I can hear from the back is, Orville, I can't believe we're going to war. I can't believe it needs to go. I can't believe it needs to go. I can't believe we're going to war. And we get our pins pulled, and we crank out. And we knew we was in trouble because our own dedicated C-130 aircraft was taxiing down the taxiway nearly about to where we was. And he had two of his engines going, and he was cranking on the third one right here because he was cranking and taxiing at the same time.
Wow.
And that was neat to our own tanker.
Yeah.
And Wizard Travis Holland, he was the lead on me, and he's ahead of me by just a few seconds. He blows out, and we were supposed to go straight off the runway to about a mile off before turning on this heading. It was taking off on 04, if I remember right, for the heading for the long runway, Key West. And since this was the real thing, I'm going to turn early. And so we blow out of there. He's way out here in front, and I turn, and I'm just going right down the beach line right here, just a few hundred feet off the deck right there in full burner, trying to catch up.
You really couldn't wait to get out there.
I couldn't wait to get there, no. And Hershey Control said, this is it. You're okay, guys. You can go ahead and throttle back and just keep on going. And so we slowed up, got it out of the burner, and by that time, we've already burned several thousand pounds of gas real quick. And we're in combat spread, kind of flying a good mile and a half or so, looking at each other type thing, looking on the radar, and we're discussing tactics, and we're going, what the heck's going on type thing. We don't know. We're in the dark. And we still don't know what's happened until sometime later. And they said, just keep going. And we make it probably about 300 miles. We're about halfway there. And they said, okay, guys, you can go ahead and turn around. Your tanker's over in this position right there. You can get gas off him and just stay airborne for a while till we let you know.
Oh, wow.
So, wow. We're going, gee whiz. So we go up there. Sure enough, our tanker's out there. We get gas. We play around for a while. And they said, yeah, you can just run some intercepts. It's basically over. As we found out later, there was a Coast Guard helicopter out there looking in that same area where that Bahamian cruise boat, PT boat, had been sunk, just checking for possible survivors. And they were down there, and all of a sudden there's about 9 MiG-21s that circle it. And they start circling around, getting lower and lower and lower. I.e., that's why they called us to come and get them. So that's why they scrambled us, the real thing. And he says, well, he got over there, and he went over there fairly close to our Coast Guard cutter that was one of the ships that was out there. Mm-hmm. And when he got over there close to the Coast Guard helicopter, he was basically safe, and the MiGs left him alone. And MiGs were real short range, low on gas anyway, too, so they had to get back to the field. And I remember when we came back, our ground guys and all, they were looking up to see if we had missiles on the airplanes, and they're going, dang it, they didn't get to shoot anything. Everybody was disappointed we didn't get to lose some weight. And I remember when I get back, and we shut down, get the airplane pinned up, get everything safety, and I was starting to take my glove off. And my left hand is kind of like, there's something sticky on my glove here. And I kind of like start peeling it back, and sure enough I go, oh, that's starting to hurt now. I had peeled off a big chunk of skin, about a 1/4 inch wide type thing, and about that deep, because there was a little burr on the step. And when I grabbed it with my hand with that full grip to get up that thing right there, because I was in a hurry type thing, I had peeled something over there right there. It had bled all that time, but your adrenaline was so strong at that time right there, didn't even feel it.
Wow.
But man, it hurt after a while. I got there, and I'm just going, holy smokes.
Can they make some medication like that? That'd be cool.
It'd be a good if you had it.
Yeah, I heard that story, and I thought that was a very neat story. They went out to go play, and he said the Cubans ran away. And he didn't like that too much, because they really wanted to go play.
There was another time that we were airborne at the time, and Hershey Control says, your snap vector is this, bogeys. Oh, goody! So, man, we go screaming that way. And
you know what bogeys are, don't you?
That's the bad guys, yes. And we're getting closer to the helicopter because we're going to protect the helicopter transport ship. And it's right out there in the middle. We can see it. We're screaming down there. We're looking on the radar and everything else. And expecting the MiGs to be low, maybe possibly making a run on the helicopter or the ship itself. And all of a sudden, it's kind of like they're passing overhead now. And it's like, oh, they're way up there. And so we turn, and we're in full burner, and we're just screaming after them type thing. And there was 2 MiG-21s in a section right here that we're following. And there was another MiG-21 way off here to the side. And we're sitting here, and we're just going right here with him, and they didn't want to turn because we're catching up to it right there, and they didn't want to turn because that would be making them closer to us where we get a real good shot at them. And so this third airplane, he starts getting low on gas, so he peels off, and he heads back to his home field where they took off at. But we stayed with them for a while longer, so now we're getting a little bit low on gas too type thing, so we just let them go, so we kind of turned off to the side, but they had to continue and diverted to a MiG field, was on the far east corner of Cuba down there. They didn't make it back to their home field by any close quarter.
Well, this has certainly been a very good afternoon talking with Orville, Captain Orville. Is JJ still around, or do you know?
You have no idea. I lost track of him years ago.
Years ago.
Of course, that's a long time ago now.
It was.
1980. That's a few years, yes.
Yeah, just a few years. So the next time that we get to talk with him, I'd like to go and let him walk us through a combat mission sequence of what they would do. Don't you think that'd be kind of interesting? Could you do that?
Absolutely.
So we're going to say good evening for this day. I salute you. I thank you, and I thank you, Captain Orville.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Very much for telling us these stories. And this is the lady. And I shout out to you, you amazing people, because we serve an amazing God, and this is an amazing man that was brought back. Thank you, thank you, thank you.